Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here, and I recently rewatched Birdman, and I really got the sense that I had finally understood the film in a more clear way than I ever had on previous viewings. But then I went on YouTube and I looked at other people's interpretations, and I just kept thinking no. Previously, I kind of thought of it as a movie where you can interpret it this way, and maybe both are correct. But I feel like there's quite a lot of evidence that I observed in my viewing that points to it being a certain way, and I just want to come on here real quick and just share that with you. Obviously, spoilers are ahead, and here we go. I believe that Riggin killed himself on stage, and that the end sequence in the hospital is Riggin's imagination or his fantasy of the legacy that he felt dying brought to him. To explain why I think this, I'm going to first outline a couple of major themes and ideas in the movie. One of the most important quotes in the movie, I think, is when Sylvia tells Riggin, "You confuse love for admiration." Riggin forms his identity around what other people think of him. Riggin does not like himself, and he does not place value in people seeing him for who he is. He only places value in people seeing what he wants them to see from him. He wants to be appreciated as an artist. He wants to entertain and be adored. But I think he is afraid of being seen naked. I think that's his greatest nightmare, and that is represented when Riggin runs around Times Square without any clothes on. Riggin's latest attempt in his life at gaining admiration is putting on the play. The play is a talky, philosophical, pretentious piece of art, and Riggin expects that this kind of work will get him acclaim and praise. Riggin knows that deep down, the play itself is just a performance for him to gain more attention and validation, to make people admire him as an artist. It's a vanity project. And Riggin does this because he seeks to understand his worth and his value through what the public thinks of him. This is why the people around him, his ex-wife and his daughter, cannot connect deeply with him. Riggin doesn't value the part of himself that is just Riggin. His daughter doesn't care about his play or his roles. She would prefer him to just be a dad. Another reinforcement of this idea is the note on Riggin's mirror that says, "A thing is a thing, not what is said of that thing." This note is something that Riggin should be reminding himself of, but it is not something that he fundamentally understands. Riggin thinks that he is what is said of him. Riggin feels that his existence is entirely based on how others perceive him, and what other people think of him creates who he is. And that creation, in a way, is Birdman. Everyone sees Riggin as Birdman no matter what he does, and he can't escape it. Riggin often wonders if Birdman is more real than he is. And maybe he likes the idea that Birdman could be more real than he is, because Riggin doesn't think that he is ultimately worth loving deep down. Let's skip to the ending before Riggin shoots himself. Listen to what the character says before killing himself. "You don't love me, and you never will? I don't exist. I'm not even here." The character Riggin is playing kills himself because once he has no love, he has no value. And the character is similar to Riggin because he thinks that without affirmation from others, he is nothing. Before killing himself, Riggin comes to terms with the fact that he screwed up his life in the dressing room with his ex-wife. He expresses regret for not being there with his daughter, being perpetually disconnected from his life. He says, "I wasn't even present in my own life. I never had it, and I'm never gonna have it." I think what Riggin sees that he could have had is a life with his family where he's not concerned about the Birdman persona, and he's just concerned about giving himself to his family and being loved back for it. And Riggin realizes that he missed the boat on that. So Riggin has given up on himself, just like the character in the play. So Riggin and his character both kill themselves because they feel that since they aren't loved, they don't exist. But let's remember, love is an admiration. Riggin may not have love, but through killing himself, he gains loads of admiration. And so Riggin kills Riggin, but he resurrects and immortalizes Birdman. He gains the respect that he was seeking as an artist by spilling real blood, blending himself with the character. Riggin gains the highest respect an artist can in this world by creating something that is perceived as being truly authentic. Authenticity in Birdman is a very important concept. Mike Shiner is the extreme end of this philosophy. He thinks everything needs to be hyper real, and that's what makes him such a great artist who the critics like and who sells tickets. His achieving the ultimate form of authenticity is also a little bit of a performance, because Riggin also killed himself so that he could get praise for being authentic. And so if he's doing it for praise, is it really authentic? Which I think is just another question in Birdman, is is any art that you do just a way for you to be admired by others in the way that you are seeking to be admired? Is all art just seeking validation through others? So in this fantasy, after Riggin has killed himself, He imagines himself getting praise from the critic who said that she would destroy his play for basically inventing like super realism. This and many other things in this sequence are like kind of too good to be true. Zach Galifianakis saying, "You did it. Everyone loves you. They're holding candle vigils for you in Central Park." That is a fantasy. Him saying this is the kind of review that turns someone into a living legend. Him saying that the play is gonna run forever. Like that's what he wanted by killing himself. He wanted to become a legend. It's just so what Riggin would like to hear. Pay attention also to how his daughter behaves towards him in the end too. She's posting this to his Twitter that she made for him. Like, since when does his daughter care about his public image? His daughter is actually comforted by the fact that she doesn't matter, which she reveals to him through the toilet paper metaphor. She doesn't care if she matters to others or if he does. Her send-off for him is just way too happy. Also in the hospital scene, Riggin is Birdman. He's no longer Riggin. His mask looks like a bird. When he takes it off, he barely recognizes himself in the mirror because he's got a new nose, because he's not Riggin. Riggin died on the stage, and Birdman lives on. His jumping out the window is just another way of showing how Riggin killed himself. The old Riggin falls, and then Birdman rises up out of the ashes. I think the tragedy of this movie is that Riggin wasn't able to love himself enough to be who he really was to those he loved, and in doing so, he could have received real love in return. His tragic flaw, as stated, is that he confuses love with admiration, and he never changes in the movie. So in the interpretation where he is not dead, then it's just this weird ending where he gets the fame he wants and also the love from his daughter, like totally unearned. When I look at this last shot of his daughter looking up and laughing at him, I think it's sad. It's sad that Riggin would fantasize about his daughter admiring him as Birdman because he didn't need to achieve that to have her love. So those are my thoughts on Birdman. Hopefully you think that I'm correct, but if you think I'm wrong, feel free to disagree with me and leave comments saying why you disagree. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. What's the highest you've ever flown?